Welcome to the Business of Law, brought to you by Bloomberg Law and the ABA Journal. I'm Pacchia. The legal recession has lasted so long that some observers are beginning to question the fundamental business model of big law. To discuss, we're joined today by Bruce MacEwen, law firm consultant and publisher at AdamSmithEsquire.com. Welcome back, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you, Lee.
Bruce, you asked your readers to take a short survey about the future of legal practice. Almost 150 individuals responded. While it's not exactly a scientific survey, we do know that your site attracts a lot of readers who are interested in law firm management issues, particularly managing partners. And suffice to say, they have a very downbeat view of the future of big law.
They're surprisingly nervous about the future of big law unless there are serious changes. I would say the biggest news coming out of it, to me, the biggest surprise to me was how there is a strong consensus things need to change, and there is no consensus on whether law firms can change.
Polarizing views to some extent.
Very polarizing.
56% of respondents said law firms won't invest or don't invest enough in new ways of doing business, and that's sufficient reason to re-examine the fundamental premise of our law firm partnership model. Were you surprised at how widespread the dissatisfaction with the partnership model is?
That was the most surprising to me of all. I mean, well more than half of these people who are in these large law firm partnerships were saying our model cannot invest to keep going in the future, and we need to question the whole structure.
And you followed up by asking what readers thought about the prohibition on non-lawyer investments in law firms. This has been a long-standing debate within the legal profession, and your survey saw a split verdict, which I thought was interesting. 43% said it hinders innovation, 34% said it doesn't. What's your view?
Yeah, 43% said we need outside investment to innovate. 33% said we can do it ourselves without it. My view is show me, prove to me you can innovate on your own. But there was a third possible answer, which is actually maybe what I agree with, and that's, would outside investment actually be interested in law firms, or would they just say this model is so challenged that we're going to start with a clean sheet of paper?
We have some evidence, not a lot, of how this has worked outside the U.S. legal market. Now, it is comparing apples to oranges when you look to places like Australia, where people can buy shares in law firms. Do we have enough of a data set in the international sphere to make a judgment as to whether it might work here?
I think it'll work anywhere in a particular market, which is what they call in the UK the high street, or we would call it the retail market. I mean, personal injury, divorce, matrimonial, maybe criminal defense if you can get anybody to pay there. But that model I think clearly works. I mean, that's sort of the H&R Block model of financial services, right? It's a proven model. It makes sense. But how far up the food chain you can go with that is the $64 question.
It's not clear whether you can do middle market M&A on that model.
Not clear to me.
Yeah. Almost half of your respondents said technology and legal process outsourcing companies are taking work away from traditional firms, and it's beginning to hurt. The other half said it is taking work, but it's an insubstantial amount at this time. Is it just a matter of time before everyone sees LPOs as a real threat to the traditional law firm model?
I think it is. I mean, if you look at that question, 95% said LPOs are a threat, whether it was immediate or current. Or next or soon. And I think that poses the question for law firms: how can we respond competitively? If this is on the horizon and 95% said it's here or it's right around the corner, what are we supposed to do? Now what?
And this is where it gets really interesting. 30% of respondents said law firms are going to have to create their own captive LPOs to compete, but just as many respondents said firms can't do anything to defend this development in the long run. Which side do you come down on?
Fascinating. So 3 out of 5 people basically said we've got to create our own LPO or we're hosed, because we can't even do that. That to me was fascinating, and again the follow-on question it suggests to me is, what would a captive LPO in a law firm look like? Could lawyers run it? My own view is no, lawyers couldn't run it. They'd want it to look like a law firm.
Is it a cultural problem, a technical problem?
It's a cultural problem.
They would just fight like cats and dogs?
Well, it's a little different, I think, Lee. Lawyers, you know, I'm one, we think we can do everything, right? But nobody can do what we do. So what the lawyers would have to do is say, all right, we're going to launch, you know, Wheeling, Nashville, Lexington, Kentucky, Belfast, Ireland, Dayton, Ohio, and we're going to let business people run it. We're going to keep our mitts off. And it's hard for lawyers to give up control. I think the only reason some will give up control is they'll see it's the only way the firm as a whole can succeed, and we're also very competitive. One of the things that this survey made clear to me is, particularly in the comments, is law firms that, okay, let's stipulate they have to change. What can they actually do? And there were some sort of boiling frog comments, like it's going to happen to law firms, but it's going to creep up so slowly partners won't notice until it's too late. But starting an LPO in-house is a big change. And the overall implication of that, I think, is it's going to increase what I call biodiversity in law land. There are going to be different business models for law firms. Right now, there's really only one. Partners and associates, we hire from the same schools, we bill by the hour, we try to serve the same clients, we do corporate and litigation. Okay, I get it. But I think there are going to be more diversity of models.
Cool. Bruce, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Lee.
Of course.
My pleasure.
To learn more about the survey results, go to adamsmithesquire.com. I'm Lee Pacchia. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.